Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host, Paula Taylor, and this is episode 158. So today's show, I'm calling What's the Deal with Starseeds? But what we're really going to talk about is what I'm calling reclaiming the quantum body. That's not the terminology that most people use around this, so I'm titling the show What's the Deal with Starseeds because that's a little more familiar term for a lot of people, and we'll go into that. I'll explain kind of my take on this whole thing. And I have to say this one's a little bit vulnerable for me because I was trying to decide how transparent to be with this, because this is a topic that feels really out there. When we talk about something like woo-woo, talking about starseed origins or angelic origins, celestial origins, is pretty far out there on the woo-woo scale. However, I'm committed to being authentic and transparent, and I see this coming up more and more with the people I'm working with. There is something about this year, as I've said multiple times, it will probably come up every week or every episode of this year's podcast. We are being invited to really transform ourselves this year, and part of that is what I am calling this reclaiming of your quantum body. So I'm going to go into what that is, but I want to make a little bit, I want to make a little bit of differentiation here. So this reclaiming your quantum body work, from what I've seen for most people, it is part of healing work, just like past life work, ancestral work. But for a lot of people, reclaiming your quantum body is about stepping into service. It's about figuring out how you are here to serve in this plane and using this part of your body, this part of your quantum field, your energetic field that still exists in order to assist other people with healing in whatever form that takes. And I've got a couple of examples of that about myself, which again is a little bit vulnerable, but I think it will illustrate this point. But first, let me explain to you what starseeds are. And I'm going to tell you my version of this, which I think is different from what a lot of other people say, but it's come directly to me from my guides. So just briefly, what do people mean when they're talking about starseeds or starseed origins? So this is this idea that a lot of us had prior lives in a different dimension, galaxy, planet, and you might hear terms like Arcturian, Atlantean, Lemurian, Mintakan. There's all sorts of different types of starseeds, and this idea, the starseeds, literally means like we were seeded here from the stars. So people with starseed origins, which I think is more of us than ever before, a lot of times come here with a specific purpose to do some sort of healing work. And the type of starseed you are can kind of inform the type of work that you do. That is sort of the traditional understanding of starseed origins, coming from another place. And a lot of people think it's other planets or even other galaxies. I would include other dimensions in there because I think there are actually what people might call starseed origins that are really not away from us physically. They're away from us dimensionally. They're in like a dimension next to ours or a couple dimensions over. So that's kind of the traditional understanding of starseeds or starseed origins. I'm going to share with you information that came directly from my guides about what this really is, what this really means in terms of energy, because everything I talk about, everything I work with is always in terms of energy. And this is where this gets a little bit vulnerable. I haven't shared this with very many people yet, but I think it gives a really good understanding of this. It gives a really clear understanding of this. There's a lot of like nebulousness in this idea of like starseeds and where people are from, and light language comes into this. I will mention that as well. So I've talked before on the show about light language, which is really just encoded information in sounds that we make. And a lot of starseeds speak all these different light languages. They channel through something that feels familiar to them because in some other realm, they spoke this language. They communicated in this way, including a lot of times, sometimes telepathically, I think. So we've used this term light language just to kind of encompass all of these channeled sounds. And sometimes people will make channeled mudras, like shapes with their hands, that also just kind of conveys this information. It's encoded in in the energy that's coming through. Okay, so here is my understanding of this idea of starseed origins, what I'm also calling angelic origins, celestial origins, essentially what I'm calling the quantum body. So the way it was shown to me is that everything ultimately is made of source, of unconditional love energy, of light, God, ki, chi, prana, whatever word you want to use for that. And in the beginning, there was just source. And the way they show it to me, it's like a giant battery, or sometimes I think of it as a warp core because I'm a little bit of a Star Trek nerd. So there's this giant battery, and that's all that there was. So how does the battery know what it is? How does the battery experience itself if it's all that there is? If all we have is light, how do we know what light is if we don't have dark? If we don't have something to differentiate from the light, everything is just all one thing. And we really understand the world and ourselves and each other through this differentiation process. So at the source, we have this giant battery, if you like to visualize it that way. But it wasn't even a physical thing because everything was this. It was all just this unconditional love and light. And so Source decided to make some differentiations in order to experience itself in different ways, to experience different facets of itself. It has to have different facets. So Source differentiated just barely into the physical, what people call seraphim. And yes, I'm going to use some religious terminology here just for understanding. I don't necessarily ascribe to any one religion, but this is just terminology that people are familiar with that I'm explaining in a new way. They could have totally different words, but then that would be even more confusing. So Source decided to create enough of a physical realm to experience itself. And that's what the seraphim are. They're beings of light that have just enough physical component that they hold space for this battery. So now all of a sudden you can see the battery because there's something different from the battery to see it. And that's the seraphim. And the mythology of the seraphim is that they sit at the right hand of Source and constantly sing praise to Source. So they hold this space of Source. They don't leave the space of Source almost ever. They're just differentiated enough to have enough physical substance to kind of hold this physical space where the big battery is. So you can picture like a big battery or a warp core and then just like pillars of light around this. The pillars of light are the seraphim. So one layer differentiated out from that. And what I mean by differentiation is adding a little bit of a physical component. So the more differentiated you get, the more physical you get, the denser the energy gets until eventually you get something like a physical body. So one layer out, we've got seraphim. The next layer out is archangels. Again, just using that terminology because it's familiar to people. It could be called almost anything. Could be called 2 layers of differentiation if you don't feel comfortable with the terminology. So at this 2 layers of differentiation, we have what most people call archangels, and they have more physical substance. They're actually able to kind of travel out of this space where the battery is, and they do. They travel all over to essentially help more differentiated beings, like human beings, kind of travel back to the light. So it's a little bit funny. Why would Source create all of these things just to come back to Source? And it's this expansion and contraction. We're talking about this all the time, expansion and contraction. So Source expanded and created all this stuff. All this stuff is kind of trying to make itself back to Source, rediscovering that light that is within everything. And then eventually deciding, oh, I've had enough of this physical journey, this differentiated journey. I think I'll re-assimilate myself all the way back to Source. So there's kind of this expansion of differentiation and then this contraction of coming back. All the time things are being created. So then one layer out, so the third layer out, after archangels is what people call angels. So these kind of higher beings that can take physical form. I think sometimes they can even occupy bodies, not just human bodies, there's other bodies in the universe, but they don't have bodies necessarily themselves. They're still undifferentiated to the point that their bodies exist of quantum energy, of light. We have light bodies, but we also have physical bodies because we are well differentiated from source. So where do starseeds fall in all of this? That's a good question. All along the spectrum here, so you can think of source as completely undifferentiated, and then at each layer of differentiation, you gather more physical matter. You gather a denser body. So way out from source somewhere, here are human bodies. We have physical bodies, we can touch them. We have physical laws that govern our space, the earth itself, the planets. These are all differentiated enough to have this, what so-called solid state of matter. Everything's really just vibrating energy, but we experience things as solid. There are states more differentiated than ours. I have worked with people who are letting go of some old karmic contracts that I call it mud world. There's a world that I see where people decide to start, and it's the most differentiated, I think, and it's just like that primordial ooze, that primordial mud. And Earth kind of started that way, like with this primordial stuff, and then things started to kind of expand and eventually evolve. So this is a space where people sometimes go, like souls get reborn to start their journey over again. And a lot of times it's to, I don't like the word atone necessarily, but when we've done things that don't align with that source energy, we carry a lot of denseness, and sometimes we have to kind of get into a denser place to start working ourselves back. It's all part of the journey. There's not necessarily judgment there. It's just the layers, the levels, essentially layers of differentiation. How differentiated are we from this pure light essence? So starseeds exist all along this spectrum of differentiation. There are starseed origins. There are beings that have no physical body. They are less differentiated from source than something like humans that do have a physical body, but they still have lives. They still have exploration. They still have cultures and communities. There are starseeds that have physical bodies. So there's all along this spectrum of differentiation exists all sorts of beings. So we tend to think that humans are the only ones because our layer of differentiation sort of puts us in a space where a lot of us don't see other dimensions. But all around us all the time, people who experience, let's say, ghosts, when you leave your physical body, you become less differentiated. You lose the denseness of your physical body, but you still exist. Your energy still exists. Your soul still exists. And sometimes they kind of hang out in the physical realm, and there are people more and more who are sensitive enough, who are open enough to see these types of things, other types of entities, other types of beings. So that's really all starseed origins are just other types of beings anywhere along this sort of spectrum of differentiation, from just barely differentiated to extremely differentiated, meaning extremely dense. And again, the experiences I've had a few times is I call it mud world because it just looks kind of like this thick, sticky sort of mud that kind of bubbles and oozes, and it's a place, it's I think the most differentiated place. I don't know. I don't get to see everything. I firmly believe that none of us we can't really grasp this conceptually completely. We can try to create like structures of understanding. That's kind of what this was shown to me, because I was like, I don't understand what this is, and I feel really uncomfortable, and I'm reclaiming all these parts of my quantum body, but I don't necessarily understand them. And I really didn't respond to some of the Christian or religious terminology like seraphim, archangels, and angels. Now I've gotten comfortable with that languaging because I understand what it means to me. It means these layers of differentiation. But again, you could easily call seraphim like first degree separation, first degree differentiation, archangels second degree differentiation, angels third degree differentiation, humans 566th degree of separation. I don't know what that is. I don't know that that's true. I just pulled that number out of my head. I was going to say something else. So let me give you a couple of personal examples, and I'm just going to share things about me personally because it's not appropriate for me to share other people's information. But what I will tell you is more and more and more in the sessions I do, I see other people reconnecting to, reclaiming aspects of their quantum body. Why am I calling it this? What do I mean by the quantum body? So all of the versions of ourselves still exist. Energy is never lost. So the version of yourself that lived in a past life still exists. That's why we can connect to that energy. Your ancestors still exist. That's why we can connect to this energy. Any starseed origin, any other dimensional bodies, beings that you have occupied, that your personal kind of soul energy has occupied, you can reconnect with. And I'm seeing this more and more in other people. And when we reconnect to these origins, we are usually here to use that energy in service. That's why starseeds come here, to kind of help expand the planet, to help us expand our consciousness. So let me give you a couple of personal examples. The first one's a little easier to go into. So for years now, usually at the end of sessions, not always, I usually scan through people's aura. So just really brief energetic anatomy we've gone into before, but if this is your first time, there's energy centers within the body, chakras, meridian points, and then just around the body is the etheric body. It's usually just a few inches. Beyond that is the auric body or auric field, the aura. This is limitless. This can extend miles and miles and miles and miles. And so this is your quantum body, this giant energetic body. And through this body, you can reclaim, you can reconnect to all of these other versions of yourself, including things like starseed origins. So for years now, I have been using this technique that I just thought was sort of like an intention, where I sweep through people's aura while I'm working with them, and I kind of sweep it clean. And it always felt like this very sort of watery, smooth motion, kind of like if you put your arms underwater and you move them, you have a little bit of resistance. And I could just kind of sweep anything out of the aura that wasn't serving, any kind of energy, any denseness, any little pieces of stuckness or holding at the very end. And I would kind of just use it intentionally. But the more I did this, the more it actually felt like I had almost like these wings that were kind of sweeping through the field. But they were, again, it was like sweeping through water. And then just recently, within the last year or so, as I continue to expand and reconnect to my own quantum body, I realized that I had a body. I think it was Mintaken, which is just a place that existed that was almost all water. You can go and read all about it. Again, this stuff comes through intuitively, so we never know. It can feel right, and that is what will happen with other people. Sometimes I'll get a sense of where I think they might be from, and then as we talk about it, or as I describe kind of what I'm seeing while I'm working with them, they're like, oh yeah, that feels so familiar, or that feels like home to me. That's another thing pretty common with starseeds, is this feeling that we want to go home because this doesn't feel like our home, because we occupied a different place before we came here. Or at the same time, if you ascribe to the idea that time is kind of vertical instead of linear, but we're experiencing it linearly, so usually it feels like someplace we came from, that we were in formerly. So I started feeling this body around my body, and the best way I could describe it was like water wings, kind of like the body of a jellyfish. If you've ever watched a jellyfish move, it sort of like has these really smooth kind of movements. And then all of a sudden it was like something clicked into place, and I felt this, I believe, Mintaken body. And it was a little bit kind of like humanoid, but then it had these big, beautiful wings outside of its body, these like translucent kind of jellyfish appearing material wings. And that's how I moved through the water or the fluid that was in this space called Mintaka. And I could feel myself kind of essentially swimming through this fluid using these water wings. And I realized that in these sessions, when I was sweeping through people's auric field to just kind of quickly brush out essentially anything that wasn't serving, that I was actually using energetically these wings, these water wings that I had as a Mintaken. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, this thing that I've been doing intuitively for years and years and years. I mean, I started doing this early in my career, so probably 20 years, that I thought I was just sort of using intention, and I was. I was being assisted in the quantum realm by these wings that still exist, because that body still exists. Somewhere in time, I have a connection to that version of myself. My soul lived a life as a Mintakan, and I have a connection to that, and I can use that connection in the quantum realm, which is not limited by time and space. I can use that connection to actually use that body to help people in this space. That is what starseeds are generally here for, to connect with that version of themselves in some way. It's not always physical. Sometimes there's a mental connection, and use it to help people. And again, it doesn't have to be in this kind of like quote unquote healing bodywork field. There are people who work in all sorts of things. Service is unlimited. You can serve just by being present. And that's one of the ways we do serve as people who reclaim our quantum body. I just got this message the other day, show them your true form. It came through when I was doing a sound journey. And it's this idea that if I fully occupy my own quantum body, it sparks some recognition in other people. They see it and they go, oh my gosh, what's going on with this person? I feel drawn to them, or I feel this presence there. I want to know more about it. And then they might start into that journey of reclaiming, reconnecting to their own quantum body. So the last thing I'm going to say about this other example I'm going to give, that I kind of debated back and forth about whether to really talk about, because it's a little bit vulnerable to me still, is that I have an angelic body, which again, there's some baggage around that languaging even for me. Celestial body. It's just another form of my quantum body. But it's much less differentiated than any other quantum body I've connected to for myself personally, because it's a seraphim body. It's one level of differentiation separated from source. So it's very powerful, and it's taken me a really long time to connect with this. It's not something I still talk about all that much with people, because it does feel really vulnerable to share that. And it feels a little bit like, I've got these connections. And the first thing I'm going to say is, everybody has quantum connections. Everybody has the ability to reclaim some portion of their quantum body, because I think almost all of us, if not all of us, have had some sort of experience. This is not our first rodeo. Most of us are not here differentiating for the very first time from source as a human. There were other lives in there that we can use now to serve humanity. The people who are here now, many, many, many of us are here to serve humanity. And so many, many, many of us, probably most of us, have some sort of quantum connection, whether it's to that kind of starseed origin, whether it's to a celestial origin. Again, it's all just like layers of differentiation. So one of the things I've been doing in the last 2 years, year and a half, is reconnecting to this first degree of separation body, I'm going to call it, which does have kind of wings, and it has this pillar of light and channels vocal sound. That is what these first degree of separation beings do. They sing, they communicate through sound. And rediscovering that has been a huge journey of self-discovery for me, but it's made a huge difference in the work that I do with other people, because it is so powerful. And that is what we're here for. We're not here to say like, I've got a quantum body, blah, blah, blah. That's not what this is about. Again, this is about service. We want to reclaim these quantum bodies for ourselves, absolutely, because it serves ourselves to remember who we are. But we greatly serve other people when we claim who we are, when we claim our light and let it shine, when we step fully into the complexity of who we are. There's all these different facets to ourselves. Yes, we have a physical body. It's very important to be embodied in that physical body to make change on this planet. But we are assisted all the time by all of these non-physical things. Spirit, what I call your spiritual support team, other people call spirit guides, ancestors, past life versions of ourselves, and this quantum body, these other dimensional versions of ourselves that we can reclaim in order to expand ourselves and then help other people expand, to show them that it's possible. Maybe I'm talking about this and you're like, this is really weird and I'm done with this podcast today or perhaps forever. Chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, this is something that calls to you. You have the ability to do this. You have the ability to find these connections. And we're going to do a meditation today just to kind of introduce that. In the last 2 episodes of this, What's the Deal with the past lives and the ancestral connections, ancestral healing, I gave a pretty big disclaimer. I don't feel that as much about this. This work can actually be fun. It can be tied to trauma because some of those quantum body versions of ourselves did also perhaps perish in ways that were pretty uncomfortable, just like past life versions of ourselves. Sometimes that's why the past life stuff sticks around. But the quantum body stuff sticks around to serve. And so having a little fun with this by just kind of expanding out into the aura and noticing what you feel, that is how I first realized that this energy that I've been using for years, this feeling of having these giant kind of water wings, almost like a manta ray, but thinner, more like that jellyfish material, that was actually a piece of my quantum body that I was tapping into. Sometimes when I'm working with people, I tap into Archangel Michael's sword, and that is used for powerful healing. So tapping into these different quantum body versions of yourself, or inviting members of your team, like for me, Archangel Michael is like a member of my team I can invite to help me, makes for more powerful healing for other people. And again, it doesn't have to be in the context of body work. It can be in the context of anything you do to help other people. So for today's meditation, we're going to just expand out into the aura and notice what we feel. That is how this work begins. Chances are, unless you've been doing this for a while, unless you're really comfortable kind of expanding into that space, this might be the very first time you've ever done it. You're somewhat unlikely to uncover that quantum connection in one session. It's just probably not going to happen. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years and I just now connected to the fact that this body that I've been using is Mintaken. A lot of that is about you and your readiness and your openness and willingness to kind of even exist, admit that these things exist, your willingness to admit that these things exist, to receive them, to allow them in, to open your awareness to that. And some of it too has to do with that differentiation. If we're in a really dense state ourselves, it's harder to sense those less differentiated versions of ourselves and other people because we can't see beyond the differentiation we're in. So this is a version of kind of expanding out, lightening our field in terms of buoyancy, adding a little bit less density to our field in order to just look around and see what might be there. And again, like for me, I've been using these things for years, and then all of a sudden one day I was like, man, it really feels like I have these wings. And then I was confused because I was working with these first differentiation wings and I thought they were the same. And then I was like, no, this has a more of a differentiated field, it has more of a physical structure, and that's why it's able to sweep energy in the way it does. So a lot of this is just allowing yourself the space and time to receive, opening to the information, getting really familiar with your body, your physical body, your energetic body, and that is how you understand the little nuances of the differentiation within your body. Like I just thought I was sending my energy forward and back, my human energy, until it was like, wait a minute, this feels like part of a body, but my body doesn't have wings. What body is this? Oh, this is a starseed body. This is a Mintaken body. This is part of my quantum body that I can reclaim and use to help other people. And the more awareness and intention you have around this, the more powerful it will be. Now, instead of just sort of vaguely swimming through people's auric fields, I understand I've got these huge wings and I use them intentionally, and it's even more powerful. People have a more powerful experience of their own expansion because I am able to expand more for myself. So let's meditate together. So for this meditation, I do suggest that you lie down if you're in a comfortable place where you can do that. If you're in a safe space, you don't have to. But it can be helpful to be lying down, to be more receptive to this information, to have a sense of expansion, is sometimes helpful from a horizontal position for whatever reason. Whatever position you're in, just make sure you're comfortable, make sure you're supported, make sure you're warm enough, get cozy. At the end of this meditation, if you're in a safe place and you choose to, you can always drift off to sleep, so just prepare yourself for that if you'd like. In order to reclaim our quantum body, to reconnect with any kind of starseed origins, we actually need to be present in the physical body. We don't leave our physical bodies to do this. We expand from our physical bodies. That actually makes this more effective, more potent. So coming home, coming present into the body right now, just moving gently, kind of reminding yourself you've got some feet down there. Maybe you've been in the headspace all day. Let's take 3 to 5 oxytocin breaths together, telling the body that it's safe. Settling the energy is always the best way to begin any kind of intuitive practice. So we're going to allow the breath to float in through the nose, really let the belly expand. We're going to breathe out using an audible ha sound from high to low. I'll do one with you. Can add that little grounding oomph at the end, just kind of sending a little bit of energy down into the earth so that you're really connected to the earth. Do a few more of those with or without that grounding oomph. And just notice whatever part of your body is closest to or contacting the earth. If you're lying on your back and you can lie on the ground, that's a beautiful way to do this, but you might be more comfortable on a raised surface like a couch or a bed. So just imagine the surface you're lying on is the surface of the earth. Imagine you're lying outside somewhere on the earth. Maybe you're in a beautiful meadow, maybe you're on the beach in the sand. Whatever calls to you is going to be most powerful. Maybe you feel the breeze on your face, just really getting in touch with the physical body here. Maybe you smell something, you smell the salt of the ocean, you smell the flowers that are blooming around your meadow. Maybe you just smell that really rich scent of earth, of soil. Maybe you're lying in a beautiful garden. You smell that little bit of a metallic tinge of the soil around you. Maybe you hear some sounds of nature. You hear some birds or bees buzzing around. You hear the sound of the breeze. You feel the sun on your face. Really allow yourself a few moments here to physically connect to your body using your 5 senses, using smell, using touch. Maybe you even taste a little bit of salt on the air, or you taste a little bit of the freshness of the mountain breeze that's blowing through this meadow. And then, as we almost always do, we're going to gently allow the crown chakra, the top of the head, to open. Just imagine a little spiral of opening, a flower opening its petals, a faucet kind of opening, and call in that beautiful source energy, that love and light, that original battery that powers everything. Allow that energy to flow in through your head and your face, down through your neck and your throat, out into your shoulders, down through the arms, all the way to your fingertips. Invite this beautiful, unconditional love into your chest and upper back. Let it come down into your belly, to your mid-back, down to the low belly and low back, all the way into your hips and pelvis. This beautiful energy flow down each leg, into the knees, all the way down through the lower legs, ankles, and feet. So now you're fully connected to the earth. You're supported by the earth, this beautiful, rich, dark, supportive energy coming up from the earth into your back, into your legs. And then this beautiful source energy coming in as well. Just this mingling of light and dark, this mingling of undifferentiated source energy with this really well-differentiated, denser energy of the earth. Denseness can be beautiful. Denseness can be clear and beautiful. When it's muddy is when it's uncomfortable. So this is a really clear, dense energy of fertility, of support, of creativity that's coming up from the earth. Just give yourself a moment, maybe take a couple deep breaths if you want, just really feeling in to the body here, that you're really present through the physical body. And as you're ready, we're staying in the body. We're just getting bigger from within the body. We're not leaving. So you might even put your hands on your belly here, or one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest. And just allow yourself to expand. Feel what it feels like just beyond your body. This is the etheric field. It's usually only a couple of inches beyond the body. You might kind of get a couple inches out and feel a little bit of resistance. That's the edge of the etheric body. So we're just kind of noticing, what does it feel just beyond my body? Just getting present. So we're in the body, we're not leaving. Having a hand, again, on the belly. You can put hands on the legs, just somewhere on your body. Contact your body with your hand. That's going to help you stay present in the body. Come back to that oxytocin breath at any point if it feels like you're meeting some resistance, if you have some fear coming up. It can feel uncomfortable to get bigger than we're used to being. We're used to being huddled in a little ball inside our body because we're in that sympathetic response, that fight, flight, fawn, freeze response. It can feel uncomfortable when we first start to expand out of that. So just go slowly with this. Maybe today you stop at the edge of your body and that feels good. Don't go any further than feels good to you today. You might feel we want to go into a stretch zone, a little bit of discomfort, but not anything that feels triggering. So if you have any signs of triggering, if your heart rate picks up, if your body starts to tense, just come back into the body. You can do this meditation as many times as you'd like. Coming out now beyond that etheric field, there's a little bit of resistance, and then if you continue to send your awareness out, all of a sudden there's kind of a lightness. And here you might have one hand on your belly. You might actually take one hand and kind of move it away from your body. That might help you get a sense of this expansion coming out beyond the body. And you can just hover a foot or so outside of the body for right now. That's great. Most people, the aura is kind of sitting anywhere from about 1 to 3 feet outside the body. So just getting a sense, like, how does this space feel? Maybe this is the first time you've ever been aware of this space. And again, one hand on the belly, one hand on the chest, one hand somewhere on the body, because we're not leaving the body. We're just expanding into the quantum body. We're still in the physical. We're just expanding into this energetic quantum body beyond our physical body. So kind of find the edge of your aura here. And again, you'll feel kind of like you've encountered some resistance, like you're bumping up against a wall a little bit energetically. And just notice, how big does this space feel? And let go of any judgment about it. Maybe it's just a foot or two beyond the body. Maybe you can kind of explore into the room that you're in. That's about as far as we want to go today. You can take this much, much further. But what we're going to do is stay anchored in our own field and invite information in. We don't need to leave the body. We don't need to get fully expanded. If you want to, if you're comfortable with this and you do this all the time, if you'd like to get really big with your quantum body, with your auric field, you can do that if it feels comfortable, if it feels familiar to you. If this practice is newer to you, just stay a few feet outside of the body, or stay kind of at the edge of the room that you're in. Give yourself maybe 4 to 6 feet. And then just feel what it feels like in this space. If you keep expanding, it actually makes it harder to find your own quantum connection. So stay fairly close to your body. If you've gone way out, come back in, just to within a few feet around your body. Not any further out than the space you're sitting in. And just notice what this space feels like. This might be the first time you've ever been in this space. So everything in this space might feel really different to you, might feel a little bit foreign. Like, is this my energy? And chances are there's probably some energy in there that's not yours if you've not been intentionally practicing within this space, releasing things that aren't yours, kind of calling in that source energy. So we'll just do that now. Just easily set the intention. I release anything in this space that is not mine. Saying that out loud is the most powerful way to do this. I release anything in my energetic field that is not mine. And then I call in love and light to this space. Just kind of filling that with this source energy. And you might need to come back and repeat that, and that's fine. We're moving through this fairly quickly today. It's just a little bit of an introduction. So once you get a sense for this space, just do a little bit of exploring around your body here. Feel what it feels like. Notice what the energy feels like. Maybe it feels a little bit tight and restricted. If this is the first time you've been in this space, that's not surprising. Maybe it feels light and airy. Maybe it feels a little more buoyant than you're used to. Like there's less substance here because we're not in a physical space. We're in an energetic space. You can stay anywhere along these steps without progressing and come back to this at any time. If you're ready to move on, just invite some information, invite some awareness into this space. We're not leaving. We've already opened our intuitive connection. So you might make a statement or ask a question. What kind of quantum body information exists in my current energetic field? Are there any connections to other dimensional bodies within my quantum field that might serve me at this time? You might not get anything, and that's fine. Again, this is all about repetition, coming back to this until you're comfortable. It can be about timing. Might not be the right time to invite this information in. Just give yourself some space here. I'm going to assist you with some Reiki through this transmission. Just exploring this auric field, this quantum body. What are you looking for? Anything that stands out to you, a little bit of temperature change, a little bit of texture change, an actual visualization, an actual vision or image. As you start to get comfortable in this area, you start to recognize the energy that feels like yours, like your human energy. And beyond that, there might be something that feels a little bit different, like my jellyfish water wings. They feel like part of me. They feel like part of my energetic body, but I know on the physical plane I don't have water wings. I can describe them. I can get a vision of them. I can tell you that they're translucent, that they're a little bit see-through, that they have this really flowing movement to them, that they have curves. They're very curvaceous. They've got kind of a big, like a butterfly, a big wing at the top, a smaller wing at the bottom, and they're just kind of undulating in what feels like fluid or water to me. So I know this is part of my quantum body because I'm not sitting in water. It feels like part of my own energy. It feels very familiar to me. It feels comfortable to me, but it's not part of the physical energy that I'm used to working with. If I leave that Mintakan body, if I leave those water wings and I come back into the physical part of my energetic body, it just feels like lightness again, like a sense of spaciousness. So I can differentiate different versions of my quantum body within this auric field just using discernment, just with practice. There's an area that feels a little bit different from the rest. What is it? Sometimes that's a little bit of energy we've picked up along the way that needs to be released. Sometimes, with intention, with practice, we can reconnect to that quantum body. So just spending some time, this is really a playful practice. This can be really joyful and fun. There's no pressure around any of this. You have infinite time to reconnect with this on the spiritual plane. So just play around in your field. I'm going to assist you with some sound here. I'll probably use some light language. That can be really helpful to awaken some of these starseed connections, these quantum connections, and just kind of move around in your own field. You can even move your body. Sometimes that can be helpful for exploration. And just see what you find here. Just notice what it feels like. And you can continue asking that question periodically. Is there a quantum connection to an other dimensional part of myself that might serve me at this time? Ushena takia na ushe atakania na ushe takanai taknia. Koshene kana takanaia 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 ta. Hu yena na hushe anaia na kushe anaha. Hianaya ya ushe na kanaia na kanaia. Quesha na kanaia na mu na knia na knia taknia taknu na takna taknia taknu Kushana kamaya na kaus na kania taknai taknai katanai 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 Queshana kai na nakana munganama nanganama minga nanga ishu nakataka taknai taknai ku katka katkea kata ku ta te ka shatkana shatkana Uyayana iha ehu se aihu Uyana iha seho Kwe ae o iha neha Kwe ae o iha Kwe anae nanae nanae nai Spending a few last moments here exploring this area. Again, letting this be joyful, letting this be playful. You can always reach out for help if you want some assistance with this. If it brings up anything that you feel like you need support around, there are people who can help you explore this space. Asking for any last bits of information that might serve you at this time. You may have really expanded out. You can stay in that expanded space, but if that feels a little bit uncomfortable, just bring your energy back with some awareness. Just come back to your body. We always want to be present in the body. Just that intention may pull some of the auric field a little closer to you. That's perfect. Put your hands on your belly, or one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest. Take a few deep oxytocin breaths in through the nose, sigh them out, use that audible ha sound. Really coming back, present into the body here. Gently allow that crown chakra to close. You can leave it open a bit for the highest good, but it probably opened pretty wide during this exercise. We want to close it just a little bit so that we're not overwhelmed, so that we're not bringing in intuitive information without intention. Check in with your body, maybe shrug your shoulders, release your hands from your belly, maybe shake them a little bit, or just gently roll them, gently roll your feet. If you're in a space where it's safe to do so and you'd like to drift off to sleep, now is a great time to do that. If you're coming back to the rest of your day or evening, continue to move your body a little bit. Take a few more deep breaths. You can use the oxytocin ha, or just breathe in through the nose, sigh out through the mouth. Setting the intention to release anything that you found in your body or energetic field that's not serving your highest good in this moment. Setting the intention to release any energies that are not your own, whether on the quantum level or not. Anything you've picked up from others. We just release that for the highest good of all. And one last time, filling the space within your body and around you with love and light, with that source energy of all that is. Sat Nam. The truth of your identity is that you are a being of limitless expansion, not just in this physical plane, but in these other dimensions, in this quantum realm. You have likely lived many lives, and you can call on those versions of yourself to help you serve in this lifetime. That is what we are here for, in whatever form we accept for that. Take 1 or 2 more deep breaths. As you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have an expansive rest of your day, an expansive rest of your week and month. I will see you in a few weeks for the next episode of Wind Down Wednesdays. No.